Nobody likes being lied to, betrayed, or manipulated. However, research shows, on average, any given person lies 1 to 2 times a day, and 80 to 84% of the population have experienced emotional abuse from either a toxic friend, parent, or partner, showing a relatively equal distribution for this to occur between genders, which is why it's important to be able to pick up on the cues, to understand the different forms of manipulation, tactics that are commonly used in order to increase your odds that you'll be able to not only detect, but derail a manipulator in action. Because sadly, one of the biggest reasons that makes manipulation so hard to pick up on is due to the interpersonal nature of the relationship in which the manipulation is taking place, especially in the instances of master manipulators, as one of the most insidious tricks up their sleeve is to con you in to letting down your guard and getting you to trust them, only to make it easier for them to then take advantage of you through the art of manipulation. And knowing what to look out for is key, whether it be at home, by a friend, in the workplace, during an interrogation, or someone trying to rope you in to their sale pitch, because you can't manipulate someone who knows they're being manipulated, as it defies the very definition of manipulation. So on that note, let's get started. First thing to make note of is there is a big difference between persuasion and manipulation, as persuasion is not based off of lies, nor is it driven from a malicious intent, and is a legitimate way to try to convince someone to take action, and in their doing so would be win-win situation. Manipulation, on the other hand, is based off of inaccurate, misleading, or false information in efforts to get the other to take action, which the only one that has anything to gain is the one doing the manipulating. There are many forms of, including love bombing, passive aggression, guilt tripping, coercive control, projection, blame shifting, triangulation, and isolation. But the darkest form of manipulation is that of gaslighting, consisting of a bombardment of lies, twisting of truths, and rewriting history with the deliberate intent to instill self-doubt and distort one's perception of reality. The most important thing to remember with manipulators is that they are goal-oriented. Each and every one of their tactics are strategically designed in a way that will ultimately help them achieve their end goal, regardless of how malicious the intention is. And then there are master manipulators. These are the ones that you want to be able to sniff out and protect yourself from the most, as well as remove yourself from within the vicinity of their presence as quickly as possible whenever you do detect that there is a strong chance that this is what you are working with, as these individuals predominantly consist of those with narcissistic or antisocial personality disorder. And the only thing of any value to them is me, myself, and I, and how can I get what I want? Because in their delusional world, everyone, and I mean everyone, is nothing more than an object or some toy that they can manipulate into doing whatever it is that they want, need, or desire, to which the end goal always comes down to one thing: keeping their delusional image of being the supernova of the human race alive and Fantasyland Island open for business. One of the best ways to both detect and derail a manipulator, as well as determine what you're dealing with, is by asking counter-clarifying questions. What makes these questions so powerful is that it forces the person that the question is asked to interrogate their memory and formulate a response, which are both incredibly stressful for someone whose intention is to manipulate. Because the thing about manipulators is they need to be the one who is in control of the conversation. And by your asking a counter-clarifying question, in and of itself, by default, takes the dominance away from them, puts you now in the driver's seat, steering the direction this conversation is heading. 2, throws them off guard, as clarifying questions in particular are simply questions asked to provide facts, and based off of the response that you receive will help you in determining if someone is in fact trying to manipulate you, and if it leans more towards them being a master manipulator.
A few examples. What other options do we have? What makes you say that? What is the objective? How do you know? Can you give me an example? So what you're saying is, depending on how they answer, is going to tell you a lot of information, because
these questions won't razzle or cause somebody to become distraught if they aren't in fact trying to twist your arm.
And if they are trying to twist your arm, then they may become distressed, distraught, try to provide you with
something that will be so completely obvious that they don't have any factual proof, but more often than not, will just back down altogether.
However, if you are dealing with a narcissist,
they're not going to back down quite so easily. Oh no. These little fuckers are more relentless and persistent than an army of fire ants. Not to mention, they can lie with great ease and have absolutely no filter to the level of outlandishness and obnoxiousness that they won't go with their lies. Some of their most typical responses to these clarifying questions will be for them to become out of proportionately distraught or appear as if they are beyond a normal level of degree in the offense that they find in your asking them this question. In efforts to turn it around and get the focus off of them, will try to make you feel bad and guilty for questioning their intentions so that you'll back down. 2, disregard your question altogether and come back with yet another counter question so they can once again reclaim the driver's seat of the conversation, which very often will have absolutely nothing to do with the issue or question at hand, such as bringing up something completely unrelated about your past or anything that they can do to make you look and feel like the bad person. They also may resort to gaslighting in efforts to change your emotional state, indicating that you're crazy, jealous, or like you're always trying to accuse them of doing something wrong. This point is imperative to stand your ground, take a moment's break to get your emotions under control, and then simply remind them, being very calm, cool, and collected, that they did not answer the question you had asked, and restate your question again.
And stick to this like a broken record. Each time you ask the question, be prepared for them to come with yet another manipulative tactic to try to deter you from the question at hand, off of them, back onto something that you did. Because if you are dealing with a narcissist, they are not going to answer the question. And at some point are going to resort
with one of their silent treatments as a form of punishment for your daring trying to cross them. When this occurs, you can all but pretty much rest assured
that what you have on your hands here is likely a narcissist.
Another way to detect and derail manipulation
is by being assertive without trying to defend yourself, because sticking to your boundaries,
depending on the response that they give you, will help you figure out, in fact, they are trying to manipulate you and or could be leaning more towards
or narcissist. Because narcissists do not understand, nor do they give one shit about your boundaries. Because to them, you are nothing but an object. And by expressing your feelings, opinions, or desires, sticking to your boundaries, someone who isn't will respect your boundaries. Someone who is trying to manipulate you will, again, become frazzled or back down. A narcissist will not. They will proceed to intentionally overstep the request just as a way to prove that they have power and dominance over you. And when this occurs, politely chime in, cutting them off by saying you are not going to participate, and then walk away. Do not become emotional, provide them any answers going forward, or even acknowledge that they are talking as you walk away. It is important to note
that if it is during the love bombing phase, and say they're trying to persuade you or pressure you into doing something in efforts to advance the relationship forward far too quickly, they will demonstrate a sickening level of agreeableness, because the end goal
during the love bombing phase differs from the end goal during the devaluation and discard phase. During the love bombing phase, the idea is to get you to see them
as if they are the best thing that has ever walked this here green earth. And the key thing to remember is, if anything, ever seems too good to be true, well, that's because it likely is. Nobody finds anybody else that interesting or willing to do anything for another's beck and call, to which these fools will do during the love bombing phase. As flattering and as exciting as it may feel for one to do so, that will not last long, and it is not worth the pain and suffering you will endure down the road.
Where during the devaluation and discard phase, the end goal
To one, make you forget who you are, and two, won't be a threat to exposing their image to anyone else.
and these questions and trying to detect whether or not you're being manipulated and or dealing with a narcissist are helpful in this determination. But the key to defeating, outsmarting, or derailing a narcissist, or any manipulator for that matter, is to remember who you are, because control is really just another word for insecure. And your confidence and self-worth trumps their delusional, fragile ego any day of the week, which is the very point behind why they must confuse you to a state of mental mayhem and chop away at your confidence to begin with. But by standing your ground, believing in yourself, knowing your sense of worth, and having confidence gives you the upper hand. It puts the ball in your court, and knowing what to look for and what kind of tactics that these people use will put you in the best spot to be able to detect and then derail. Because here's the thing, one's actions speaks 1,000 words, and if you listen to their actions, you will never be fooled by their words. And that is all that a narcissist is. Nothing but a bunch of bullshit words.
And lies to get you to do what they want you to do, period. And if your intuition even has the slightest bit of concern or trying to heed a warning that you could be dealing with a narcissist or narcissistic psychopath, the best thing to do is to just cut your losses, cut your ties, pack your shit and run. Because nothing good comes from staying, nothing. And the longer you stay, the more detriment it has on your life, mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And the harder it is to get away. No one is worth losing your life, your soul, or your freedom to. So focus on you and remember that you truly are worth and deserve so much more.
So fight for you, stand up for you, focus on you.
Fuck the narcissist.